culture is really, really important because, you know, what might be a appropriate color to me might be very offensive to someone in a completely different part of the world, right? Based on color bias and whatnot.
For example, in the Western world, men don't tend to be attracted to color pink, you know, as an average. Obviously, there are exceptions today. But for example, in India, pink is actually a masculine color. And it depends on the pink, right? The more you know about color, the more you know the differences between different pink. You know, it's the difference between someone saying, go to a restaurant and say, I want a red wine versus I want a white wine, versus I want this year from this chateau in this country, in this region. Color is the same. You know, if you talk about pink, what kind of pink? Is it a hot pink? Is it a washed out pink? Is it bright? Is it, you know, drab?
They've done studies over many years that prisons, if they're painted in a light pink, they tend to calm people down. They're very soothing colors, and in a prison environment where people are locked up for a very long time in diverse conditions, you want calm people. But they realize that if you go on the other spectrum of pink, go more towards a rosy red, then it's very sort of energetic and almost aggravating, and it has the complete opposite effect.
What about patterns? What about a lot of colors next to each other? So there are certain cultures in the world where that's very put forward. For example, many countries in sub-Saharan Africa really love those patterns, really love those bright contrasts. You see them in weddings, you see them in everyday clothing, you see them in the way they decorate their houses. So that actually means something to the way they represent their own culture. And then you have the opposite, where, you know, the weather might be a little bit more gray most of the year. There are a lot less people around you, and you might be more interested in, you know, very subtle, you know, neutrals, or very, very subtle colors. I would say, you know, Northern Europe tends to use colors like that. So I've been invited to a lot of panels where we talk about products, and one comment that comes up often is like, oh, I'm tired of seeing masculine products out there. And then you ask, you know, the panelists what they mean by masculine. They're like, oh, you know, it's just basic shapes. It's always black. It's trimmed with silver or chrome. And I understand that stuff is really ugly. But I wouldn't call that masculine. You know, it's not because it's black and boring that it's masculine. What they actually mean is that it's boring. It's not inspired. It's not taking any risk. You know, it's not trying to stand out in a sea of sameness. So let's stop calling those products masculine, because there are plenty of masculine products that are absolutely gorgeous, right? Like a Wally yacht or a Lamborghini Countach.
So in practice, not only can color be used as a brand color, which is sort of obvious, but it's also used as a wayfinding device. For instance, if we are parachuting out of the sky, we're looking for that ripcord handle is often red. And if the first one isn't red, the backup one is definitely red. So red is used, at least in Western culture, as a sort of extreme environment or extreme use case. Also, another example is your gas pipe coming into your house. The valve that turns the gas on and off, which is a very important valve, is bright red, so you know where it is and know how to turn it on and off immediately. So these kind of wayfinding devices are really interesting. We try not to overuse them because they can be a little bit obnoxious unless they're a safety reason, but it's nice sometimes to do just a little hit of color here and there to give attention to detail.